Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The morning sun filtered weakly through clouds tinged by smoke and ash, casting a muted gray light over the city of Hiroshima. The familiar rhythm of life had been shattered, replaced instead by a brittle silence marred only by distant cracks and the murmurs of those who wandered aimlessly among the ruins. The once lively streets, rows of shops, and the proud architecture of the city lay in ruin, twisted metal and blackened bricks strewn like the scattered fragments of people's shattered lives. Amidst this desolation, two figures moved silently through the debris, their steps tentative but determined. Two schoolgirls, bound together by circumstance and a secret pact forged amongst the ashes. Their names were Hannah and Takara. Hannah's dark hair was tangled and dusty, a jagged tear running down her kimono reflecting the chaos that gripped their world. Her eyes, though clouded by unspeakable despair, still shone with a flicker of resilience. Takara, smaller but no less fierce, had soot-smudged cheeks and hands clenched tightly around a crumpled sheet of paper, fragile as a leaf in the wreckage. The day of the bombing, August 6, 1945, had been imprinted in their young minds with horrifying clarity. At school, they had been preparing for the coming autumn festival, their laughter and chatter echoing through the classroom. Then the sky tore open, not with thunder but with a blinding light followed by a terrifying shockwave. In the chaos, they had grabbed each other's hands, clinging for dear life, their world reduced to a brutal blur. When the silence came, thick and suffocating, they found themselves among ruins where their school once stood. Now, over a month later, the city was still a landscape of devastation. The two girls had taken refuge in what remained of an old shrine on the outskirts. It was there they made their pact. Not one written in the conventional way but etched into their hearts. A solemn promise to rebuild and to remember, to never forget what had been lost, and to transform their grief into hope. "There is nothing left but ash," Hannah whispered, voice cracking, the paper crane she held between her fingers trembling gently. "But from ash, the phoenix rises. We will be like cranes, Takara. We will fly again." Takara nodded, eyes fixed on Hannah. Their hands joined over the delicate origami, a symbol of fragile courage. The paper crane, a traditional emblem of peace and longevity in Japanese culture, would be their emblem of survival and renewal. Their secret pact was simple yet profound. Together, they would fold 1,000 paper cranes, each one a prayer, a hope for peace, a soul saved from the horror they had witnessed. But the path ahead was fraught with hardship. Food was scarce, homes were destroyed, and the specter of radiation sickness haunted the survivors. The two girls watched friends and neighbors fall ill, their youthful bodies succumbing to an invisible enemy. Yet, amidst the despair, their ritual of folding cranes persisted. By day, they scavenged for scraps of paper, often ripping pages from forgotten books or discarded letters, carefully crafting each crane with meticulous fingers. At night, under the dim light of a salvaged oil lamp, their whispers would intertwine with the rustling paper. One evening as the sun dipped beyond the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and fiery reds, Hannah spoke of their dream. "When this is over, we will gather all the cranes and scatter them across the river. They will carry our prayers far away." Takara nodded again, though weariness had begun to show in her wide eyes. Their friendship had been forged in innocence but tempered in the furnace of war. As autumn waned into winter, the cold tightened its grip. The ruined city offered little shelter, and the two girls moved cautiously, avoiding troops who viewed orphans and wanderers with suspicion. Despite their hardships, they found pockets of humanity. Elders who told grim stories of the past, mothers who shielded babies from the cold, and wandering monks who offered blessings for peace. The community around them was fragile but tenacious, like themselves. In the lesson of the cranes, their message was tenfold. That life could be rebuilt from devastation, that memory should not be forgotten but honored, and that peace was a seed they nurtured in the hardest soil. One December afternoon, as snow dusted the barren branches of cherry trees, Hannah found Takara sitting by the riverbank, folding her next crane. Her face was pale, and Hannah could see the way Takara struggled to catch her breath. The sickness that stalked their city had reached her. Hannah sat beside her and quietly laid out a small pile of cranes they had folded over weeks. "Do you remember when we made our pact?" she asked. Takara nodded, tears brimming. "I will finish the 1,000, for you and for all who cannot," Hannah vowed, her gaze so fierce it seemed to burn away the cold. In that moment, their friendship transcended the pain, it became a beacon. Days turned into weeks, and as Takara grew weaker, Hannah's resolve strengthened. She folded papers late into the night, hands numb but spirit unbreakable. The cranes became more than origami. They became stories of loss, survival, and hope. When the new year arrived, word spread that the city was slowly being rebuilt. The government was sending aid, and hopeful crowds gathered to clear the rubble. Hannah, holding the last folded crane in her hands, decided it was time to fulfill their final promise. She made her way to the river where once laughing children played beneath cherry blossoms now bare and brittle. The river flowed steadily, a ribbon of silver threading through destruction and renewal. Hannah released the cranes one by one into the water. They danced on the currents, bright flecks of white amongst the muddy waves. Each paper bird carried a silent prayer, a promise of a future where children could learn, laugh, and dream without fear. As she watched the cranes drift away, a gentle warmth settled over her, the warmth of hope sharing space with grief, a future learning to bloom in broken soil. Years later, when the city of Hiroshima had risen from its ashes through the tireless efforts of its people, the story of Hannah and Takara's paper crane pact had become a cherished memory shared amongst the new generation. The legend inspired a movement, its message echoed worldwide in calls for peace and disarmament. In a quiet corner of the rebuilt city, a small monument stood, a girl releasing paper cranes beside a river, a testament to courage born from tragedy, a whisper of hope that even in the darkest of times, humanity's spirit could soar higher than any weapon's shadow. For more stories, like and subscribe.